It's Wednesday, so much going on in the world, and also so little going on the Democratic ticket, so little substance, so little clarity. In fact, a lot of flip-flopping and confusion about where Kamala Harris actually stands. Yesterday, she recanted her Medicare for All. The day before that, she caught people by surprise, didn't tell the Democrats she was going to come out for ending taxes on tips, something that Democrats actually wanted to increase. The Kamala Harris, Tim Walz ticket is sort of as confusing as the Middle East is unstable. And we're going to dive into both of those with our good friend, because it's Wednesday, AMAC Wednesday, that is. Our good friend Bobby Charles joins us right now. Bobby, good to have you on.
John, big times. Happy to be with you.
Well, there are big times. We're 2 to 3 weeks into the Harris-Walz ticket, and the biggest storyline is no news conferences, no organic questions, no interviews, and lots of flip-flops. They're now on almost both sides of every issue. They just reversed on Medicare for All. She renounced her Medicare for All support from 2020. What do you think is going on? And are Americans buying this routine?
Well, I think I can describe what's going on, but I don't think Americans are buying it. And I think, John, the longer it lasts, the more likely it is that the card house just falls. I mean, as I watch Kamala Harris and this guy Walz, I see sort of the old science fiction shapeshifters. They present themselves to an audience and they imagine that you will see in them, there's such an emptiness to the vessel, a mirror image kind of projection, that you will see in them what they hope is that you will see in them whatever you want to see in them. And yet the irony is what she says she stands for is what she has always never stood for, and what she says she doesn't stand for is what she has always stood for. So it's not just the notion that, to borrow from, who was it, Oscar Wilde, imitation is the best form of flattery, and so she's borrowing off what she can get from Trump and trying to showcase that. It's really that there's a great emptiness there, John. I look at Walz and I look at her and I just pick 3 or 4 of her issues. Okay, the notion that she would somehow recant on nationwide mandates for medicine and the abolishment of private medicine. That's what she's pushed for a long time. Now she says, that wasn't me, or she doesn't say anything about it. She talks about closing up the border. She had 4 years to close up the border with all the authority of the White House behind her, and she did absolutely nothing. In fact, she promoted the idea of people breaching the border. So she was a prosecutor, but actually she was a prosecutor that really wasn't a prosecutor. The Supreme Court had to hammer her twice for failure to respect constitutional rights. She covered up. She refused to produce Brady evidence, which is exculpatory evidence, when she was demanded by higher federal courts. She is. I mean, I hate to put so fine a point on it, but she's a liar and a shapeshifter. She is a nothing. There is nothing there. What she is, if she says that she is one thing, immediately think about what she's trying to cover, because that's how she operates. And then look at this guy Walz. He has hurt so many people. He hurt so many people in his own state with his mandates that it didn't just shut down businesses and throw them into bankruptcy. It didn't just throw people out of jobs. It didn't just mandate that they couldn't go to their churches. It didn't just try to shut down Thanksgiving and Christmas. He went so far as to have a separate office, John, that was dedicated to the proposition of informing, just the way that the Soviet Union did. You inform on your neighbor if they're not wearing a mask. How bizarre is that? And then he comes out and presents himself as a higher rank than he was in the military, says he was in combat when a combat vet is something very different from what he was, and then begs off when he gets mobilized. They are shapeshifters. They are people that are not real, John. And I hope that the average American sits back in their chair and goes, I love the cartoon images. It's like we used to get up in the morning, Saturday mornings, and watch Tom and Jerry. I love the cartoon images. But you know what? It's not going to. Yeah, they are
just weren't meant for politics, right? Yeah.
That's not for politics.
Yeah, good point. That's funny. That's a good fond memory of thinking about that. But it does feel that way. It does feel cartoonish, and it feels sugary, unsatisfying. It's just, you don't feel, there's a little bit of sugar, but there's no substance to what's going on. And I think that's going to wear thin in an era where Americans see so many serious issues. I want to ask about one more thing. It just broke a little bit ago. 2 things really that broke a little bit ago. But I think they go to this issue. So Kamala Harris has been caught buying Google search to change the headlines on news stories so that it make it look like the news industry was supporting a war. Now, in fairness, the news industry has been pretty puffery of her, but if you have to buy Google search headlines and give a different spin than what the news actually is that going to feed into this idea that she's fake?
It's not only going to feed into the idea, John. It should become a headline of its own. Why? Because those who are craven in a way that tries to double gild the lily, they really do themselves no favors. It puts me in mind, and Richard Nixon had a locked and cocked organization in 72. He actually had everything in line. Polls were with him. Everything was going his way. But lo and behold, either the people around him or he decided they needed to double gild the lily. They needed to break into Democrat headquarters. They needed to basically do things that eventually would have gotten him impeached and made him resign. Why? Because people who are craven for power see no limits on their own behavior. And what that really means is that when they get into power, they will see no limits on the oppression of you in order to expand and retain their power.
That's a very important dynamic, and it's one that's been tried and tested. We know that it is. We know that dynamic really exists. A second piece of this: a little bit ago, James Comer announced that they have confirmed with Google that Google did, in fact, manipulate search headlines to exclude Donald Trump's assassination attempt when people searched for assassination. Now Google blamed it on a technical error where their safety protocols didn't get updated with the reality that Trump had been assassinated, so therefore it was suppressed. But once again, big tech, whether intentionally or unintentionally, has misled the American people and put their thumb on the scale. Comer announcing a full-scale investigation of Congress. How big is it that big tech keeps getting caught time and time again on manipulating the truth through its tools?
Well, it's manipulation of the truth, and then it's the denial of the manipulation of the truth. This public corruption. We think of public corruption as being associated with politicians, but actually, public corruption can often be associated with a publicly held company as well, and that would be shading their earnings. But in this case, it's for political purposes, and I think it's not only a disgrace, but it's almost, again, a cartoon-like finger pointing. It's the protocol that did it. It's the algorithm that did it. The darn AI. We just can't get them to pay attention to the fact that there really was an assassination attempt. Really, well, it only dominated the news for cycle after cycle after cycle after cycle. So, obviously, public corruption, John, is like an infectious disease, and when it begins to kill the truth in a systematic way, it's a plague. It's a black plague.
Listen, there's a moment, I'll read this. This is because Meta also got hit today by the Commerce Committee. But this is exactly what Meta, Facebook's AI bot, told people when they asked, was Donald Trump, did someone try to take Donald Trump's life? There was no real assassination attempt on Donald Trump. To confirm, there's been no credible report or evidence of a successful or attempted assassination of Donald Trump. That test was done on July 31st, 18 days after the assassination attempt. This is from the letter that Congress sent Zuckerberg. It can't be an accident that 18 days later, artificial intelligence can't find headlines. Just remarkable to see that thumb of big tech.
Well, it's not an accident. Just like it's not an accident, John, that when they went with artificial intelligence to describe the nature of the people on the Mayflower, they said there were 3 blacks and there were 4 Chinese and there were 7 Indonesians. And yeah, really, I don't think so.
I think we might. Yeah, if only we had photographs. I'll tell you, it's just crazy. It's just crazy to watch what has happened. All right, folks, don't go anywhere. More of our exclusive Vinny with Bobby Charles right after these messages. Hey folks, we all want to feel healthy and energetic, but most of us are running on fumes, and exercising and eating right just becomes another thing on our too long to-do list. I'm telling you what, it doesn't have to be that hard. That's why I take Field of Greens. It's whole organic fruits and vegetables. No extracts, no lab-made stuff, just 1 scoop a day gives you simple, real nutrition. Field of Greens feeds your body with fruits and vegetables medically chosen to support your heart, your vital organs, and your immune system. I started taking it a couple of years ago. As soon as I did, I began to see my weight go down, my blood sugar go down, my appetite go down, my blood pressure go down, and my energy and my metabolism go up. That's pretty awesome, right? That's what you want. And it takes just a few seconds, 1 scoop, and you're on your way. I put it in my drink or I put it in my eggs in the morning, and I am on my way. Field of Greens is my go-to for getting the nutrients I need, even on those bad eating days. You know, we all have them. I'm sure you'll love Field of Greens, but if you don't, you can return it for a full refund. Now, I've got you 15% off your first order and free rush shipping. What do you got to do to get that? Visit fieldofgreens.com and use the promo code JUSTNEWS. That's the promo code JUSTNEWS at fieldofgreens.com. Go to fieldofgreens.com today and do what I do. Start taking it. You're going to feel better right away.
This podcast is supported by Progressive, a leader in RV insurance. RVs are for sharing adventures with family, friends, and even your pets. So if you bring your cats and dogs along for the ride, you'll want Progressive RV insurance. They protect your cats and dogs like family by offering up to $1,000 in optional coverage for vet bills in case of an RV accident, making it a great companion for the responsible pet owner who loves to travel. See Progressive's other benefits and more when you quote RV insurance at Progressive.com today. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Pet injury is an additional coverage and subject to policy terms.
All right, folks, welcome back. More of our exclusivity with Bobby Charles. On a more serious note, although that is a serious issue, but I think people look out. Everywhere I go now, people have told me the world just feels so much more insecure, and nowhere is that more true than the Middle East, which Donald Trump had moving towards historic peace with the Abraham Accords exactly 4 years ago this month. In fact, exactly 4 years ago yesterday, they were announced. Now we have Iran and its proxies destabilizing the waters, the air, the ground with Hamas, Hezbollah, and the Houthis. They've sent two people into the United States, one to assassinate President Trump, one to hack President Trump's computer files. It seems to me that Iran has a big, giant, red blinking warning light, and Joe Biden, Kamala Harris own turning it on.
Yeah, they do. Look, you invariably. I mean, you don't have to be smart. You can just be a farmer. You reap what you sow, right? I come from a rural part of America. You reap what you sow. And what they did here is they basically ignored all the rules of peace through strength. They ignored the rule that if you're not on the move forward, you're invariably sliding backwards. Iran took advantage of that. Obviously, Russia did, and China has, but Iran took advantage of that, and they have put our ally Israel, and frankly the entire region. And if you really think about it, based on their behaviors as a terrorist organization, an official terrorist organization, and their acquisition, their huge conventional forces, they have probably 6,000 now. Missiles of different kinds that could imperil everything, including Europe, and their aspirations for a nuclear weapon. They are the living embodiment of what happens when you abandon deterrence. They have decided that they have a green light to go do whatever damage they want to do. And we're at a very perilous moment right now. As you know, we have the U.S. aircraft carrier strike groups, Abraham Lincoln and Theodore Roosevelt over there. We have a number of destroyers over there. We have a nuclear submarine, which, as we both know, is not normally announced right there. And people forget, too, that Israel has 90 nuclear weapons. So if Iran does something really radical, it could be a matter of hours when things escalate. And Russia is right there behind Iran, and China is right there behind Russia and Iran. So I think we need to be very calm, cautious, thoughtful, and we ought to be out there on the airwaves, our leadership, united, including with the Europeans, saying this is a no-go. Put it back in the can, to borrow from a phrase that Ronald Reagan used when Iran launched threatened to launch a silkworm missile. Put it back in the can.
Yeah, that's really, really important. It's an important reality I think the world is dealing with. Last night, Robert Greenway, former chief of the National Security Council's Middle East Division, said that the Biden administration has lost its deterrence capability with Iran, that Iran doesn't feel any need to stop doing what it's doing. And he pointed out there's been more than 200 attacks on either ships or troops since October 7th that had some Western or American personnel on them. 200. And there's been hardly a reprisal. And he said that failure to reprise basically took deterrence off the table. How big a problem is that for the rest of our allies, realizing that the U.S. doesn't have the swagger right now to stop Iran from doing whatever Iran wants to do next?
Well, since Afghanistan, if not long before that, the bad guys in the world don't believe anything that the Biden administration says. They don't believe that they will respond when they say they will respond. It really even goes back to Obama and the red line in Syria. They set up a dynamic in which, a match by itself is not particularly dangerous. A match put to tinder in a forest on a mountaintop in a national park is very dangerous. And that's what we're looking at right here. What you're really seeing is that the world doesn't believe what Biden, Harris, or anyone else has to say. And there is a counterpoint. For those that say, gosh, it's just too dangerous a world and I don't know what anybody would do, the counterpoint is Ronald Reagan. Ronald Reagan faced an Iran which was well-armed, that was threatening, that was attacking U.S. warships, that was attacking U.S.-flagged tankers in the Persian Gulf and the Sea of Oman, and although not in the Red Sea. But what he did is he said, listen, put it back in the can, turn your volume down, step back inside your borders, and don't step out again, or we will hit you harder than you have ever been hit before. And he initiated, when Iran tried one more thing and launched at an American warship, he launched 2 operations, and people can look them up online. I don't have them in front of me, but Praying Mantis was one and Nimble Archer was the other. And what he did is effectively destroyed half of Iran's navy. And he said, and he destroyed some of their oil production capability, all their platforms at sea. And he said, if you keep coming at us, there will be less and less of you to come at us the next time. And you either, and I'll never forget, the illustrious Sam Donaldson, after Reagan had delivered some really strong counterpunches mid-1980s, mid to late 80s, Sam Donaldson said, Mr. President, are we at war? And he looked over one shoulder and said, no, Sam, they wouldn't be that stupid. And he just kept moving. And the bottom line is, if you deter with force in the Middle East, they will back down. If you let them burn the forest down, they'll burn the forest down.
It is such an important factor, and you are so right that we've lost that capability. I just don't understand. I don't understand how we did it, but it's there, and it is what we are. And of course, we not only lost our deterrence capability, we gave Iran enough in billions of dollars, somewhere between $70 and $100 billion, that they have the cash to do what they want to. Something else Donald Trump had prevented during his time in office. Really remarkable, Bobby. What's going on?
Until you get an all-out war, and I pray that the next 7 months don't deliver that to us, and I pray that we have a responsible leader who reinforces the normal, the way Iran released the hostages within the hour after Reagan was inaugurated, because he had said, I'm coming for you. If you don't release them, I'm coming for them. And he wouldn't have botched the way Carter did. So at the end of the day, what it takes, the hopeful point is this. Unless you face a real regional or global conflict that becomes very hot very fast, and I really do hope that we can consciously take some baby steps toward reestablishing our deterrence. Until that happens, it's not irreversible. And ultimately, if we moved in with Israel in lockstep and knocked out key elements of Hezbollah, or knocked out key elements of the Iranian army, or basically took out key elements of their navy, or we launched a cyber attack that we don't use a lot of our cyber capabilities, but disabled some of their missile launch capabilities, et cetera. If we did something that showed we were real, Iran is not stupid. They're a rational actor in their own world. I mean, they're theological crazies, but they are a rational actor when it comes to self-preservation. And if we showed them that we are not kidding any longer, okay, whatever the caught in irons problem was prior to now, we have a sail full of wind, and we're going to go where we want to go, and you're not going to create instability across the region the way that you've been doing. And by the way, do you know that would send an incredible signal to Russia and a secondary signal to China? And there would be global rethinking about whether the U.S. really did believe in deterrence and taking action that was concrete in response to things that were inappropriate.
There was always the theory the Reagan administration had that peace through think had a domino effect, that once you applied it in one place, it would send a message to 5 places. And this administration, the Biden-Harris administration, hasn't seemed to have studied that playbook very well. Bobby?
Well, it's the reverse.
It is.
It's the reverse, John. They exactly. Appeasement creates added hope for appeasement, right? Instead of the other way around. Anyway, yeah.
No, you're exactly right. All right, Bobby, as always, we love having you on. It's such an honor. Your experience in the State Department, in the court system, and of course, as national spokesman for AMAC is invaluable. I'm so excited to to be joining your Boot Camp for Boomers next month in Long Island. That's going to be a blast, and we'll be together again. But we'll have you on again next week. And folks, in the meantime, go to amac.us, amac.us/justnews this month only. For $1, you're going to get a whole year's membership. That is an incredible deal. If you're already a member, go buy a membership for a friend. It's a great gift. They'll be hooked on AMAC like I'm hooked on AMAC. Go do it today and say thank you to all the great people, Rebecca and Bobby and the entire team at AMAC, for their wisdom, their patriotism. And by the way, they're great bargains you get when you get discounts using your AMAC card.